Good morning, brothers and sisters in the Lord. It's Chi again with another word. I pray that you guys are doing wonderful this Sunday morning. I pray that you are blessed, that all that concerns you is blessed, and that you guys have had a wonderful weekend. This morning, I'm just trying to catch up on the words that God gave me to release. So a few of them will be congealed, but this one will be separate due to the subject matter. So this word is pertaining to the religion or practice that has really most recently come on the scene or has become more rampant, right? So being Nigerian, I hear this all the time. I'm constantly asked about this faith, this religion that I'm about to speak of, and I'm always asked if I'm part of it because I'm African and I should know the truth, right? So I always answer with a great big no. I'm not part of it because I've seen the damages that it can do. I think it's absolutely dangerous, and I discourage anyone from joining that movement, that whatever you want to call it. So the belief system in question that I'm referring to is called Ife, however you pronounce it, I'm not totally sure. I do know that it is a belief system that originated within Africa, West Africa. If you look deep into the origins of voodoo by way of the internet, it'll say it originated within the Yoruba tribe. So that's what I'm going to stick with based on my research. So that, along with all other world religions, pretty much stems from this tribe, right, that is in Nigeria predominantly currently. So voodoo, Santeria, all the variations of such come from this same very origin. So that being established, this ancestral worship, these same spirits that operate within voodoo, Santeria, etc., they do their job within that belief system as well. So why I advise not to have anything to do with it. So first and foremost, the word of God says in Deuteronomy 18:10-11, it says, "Let no one be found among you who consigns a son or daughter to the fire, or who is an augur, a soothsayer, a diviner, a sorcerer, one who casts spells, one who consults ghosts or familiar spirits, or one who inquires of the dead." That would include tarot card readers, that would include witches, that would include psychics, that would include mediums. So these are people that the Lord specifically tells us to stay away from. Why? Why does the Lord tell us to stay away from these people? Why does the Lord ask us not to have anything to do with them as far as working with them and seeking out their services? Well, the answer is pretty simple. We have these portals, spiritual portals, right? And that we all have gateways into our spirit. And a lot of times these spirits, they can't automatically get access. You have to grant them access, or you have to create an opening for them to come in, right? So when you pay, or when you give someone money in exchange for a reading, or if you just grant them permission, you know what I'm saying? If you give them access to you by way of that reading, you open yourself up to whatever spirit that they're working with. These are what you call familiar spirits. These are spirits that are constantly on assignment, monitoring. They're very familiar with you. They're not only familiar with you, they're familiar with your lineage. They're familiar with your whole ancestral line. So they'll come to you as if they are ancestral spirits when they're not, because the dead is the dead, and the dead has nothing to do with the living. So what will happen is you'll create these openings, right? And if you have active bloodline altars, and when I reference altars, I'm speaking specifically of altars erected in reverence to deities, spiritual deities that were worshipped by way of actual ancestors in times past. It could even be as recent as the current generation, considering how rampant Ifa currently is. 9 times out of 10, it will have its negative effects on the following generation, but it could start from the current generation and continually pursue the following generations until those altars are destroyed. Pursuing whoever is chosen right within the family. And it might just afflict the whole family. But 9 times out of 10, there will be evidence of this altar being still active within that bloodline. It could be one family member, or it could be one household within the generation, or it could show up in a multitude of ways. However, that altar needs to be torn down. Instead of tearing down the altar because you, as a child of God who has no idea what's happening to them, right? You've been going to church every Sunday. You've been praying every night. You might even have been fasting, but you've been totally ignorant to the fact that there's an altar that is still erected, that was erected by way of maybe 4 generations prior to you, that needs to be torn down, that there needs to be a deliverance within your bloodline. You will seek out another way because you feel like God has not answered you, right? Meanwhile, your ancestor, 9 times out of 10, you were devoted to this altar. Your bloodline was devoted to this altar. And when I say devotion, to be clear, I'm not speaking of like a heartfelt devotion. I'm speaking of someone taking an oath or pledging, swearing, bowing to agree to subjugation, to agree to be led, to give this spirit autonomy and give one's will and the will of their future generations over to this deity, to the deity that the altar in question was originally erected for. Someone in your bloodline likely pledged to serve at this altar of this deity in exchange for something. Most times it's usually women who are infertile, looking for children, or childbearing. It can be wealth, it could be a plethora of things, but for whatever reason, one reason or another, there was a pledge and an oath taken to where someone in your bloodline agreed to serve this deity in exchange for something. Your bloodline pledged to serve the gods at this altar, right? Right? So what happens is they'll continue to visit every single generation until this altar is broken down, until it's destroyed, right? So you'll be being afflicted and you'll have no idea why. And then someone, by some way, will come and tell you, Ifa chose you, Ifa is looking for you, Ifa has called you. They know everything about you. Why wouldn't they know everything about you? That's what they're telling me. Oh, they know everything about me. Why wouldn't they know everything about you? It's a monitoring spirit. Of course, that's their job, to know everything about you, to compile information about you in your household, in your previous generations, in your current generation. So they come to tell you about your life. Of course, they work through this person, this medium. The spirit will speak through the medium, right? And they will say something as simple as, erect an altar in your house and be putting candy on the altar. And your spirit guide or whatever will accompany you and protect you, and you'll be doing what they ask you to do, and you'll see the positive change. And then out of nowhere, something starts to come up again, right? So because you got help and you found a solution before, and all it cost you was some candy, you go back and you say, hey, I don't know what's going on, but that situation was resolved, but now I got this situation going on. I need help. What do I do? Now they're like, well, just give me a few dollars, a few dollars. They'll ask you for little things. It'll be an easy request. You give it to them. Again, you get a solution to that problem, right? You go home, you're happy, you're like, wow, I thank God for that. I'm so grateful for the ancestors because this is now, life is working out for me now. Things have changed. I'm on up and up. You feel invincible. Then something serious happens, like maybe you get very, 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 very sick or something, or someone you love and care for gets very, 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 very sick. At this point, it's like, no, we don't want candy. We don't want $50. We want you to slaughter or sacrifice a chicken. You're there, you go, you do it. You see recovery. Then that sickness might go and come back intensify, right? Now we don't want a chicken. We need a goat. You go, you sacrifice the goat. You sacrifice the goat, right? And you get healed. Then the same thing that was on you, you see it on your child. Intensified. I hope that you've been able to catch my drift by now. What I'm getting at is that these spirits will give you solutions to the problems. However, they are also the cause of the problem. So they will give you short-term solutions and then meet you with another problem that's actually worse than the problem that you started out with. Why? So they can levy a heavier cost, a heavier burden to you in exchange for another temporary solution. Yeah, now they're requiring a cow. You provide the cow. Then you see healing in that area. And it comes back and now somebody's about to die, right? At that time, they will likely ask you to give them the eye of a human being and a tongue of a human being. It gets progressively worse. It goes from bad to worse in no time. You've been conditioned because initially you started off giving them candy. Then you started giving them a few dollars. You went ahead and you slaughtered a chicken. Which desensitized you to what they would ask you for next, which is the goat. The goat desensitized you to the cow. Because you're shedding innocent blood, right? If you can kill a cow, you have the capability to kill a person. So now they're requiring nonsense but costly things that money can no longer satisfy. Now we need you to provide an eye. Now we need you to provide a tongue of a human being. Now we need innocent blood. This is why these kids are being kidnapped, not just in Africa, but around the world at this point. I'll add that the use of innocent blood is highly valuable and integral within the kingdom of darkness. Highly valuable. This is why defects around this nation don't know where these kids are at. They take these kids out of these homes and then they just lose them. They disappear. This is why these elites that you'll never see, you won't even hear their names, are at places feasting on the blood of children and fetuses. You might think it's wild now, but just because you don't know what's going on, don't mean it's a lie. Just because it sounds crazy, far-fetched, and scary, don't mean it's a lie. This is what's really happening. So when I tell people to stay away from Ifa, it's not because I am scared. It's not because I am ignorant. It's because I've seen enough in my life. I've seen enough of the effects in my life. And I've never had anything to do with that stuff. Okay? It could be people attached to you. You have nothing to do with it. People attached to you may have sworn allegiance to those kind of things, and now you being pursued and you have no idea why. All the time, it's because of an altar. There are people on fire for Christ, Yoruba people on fire for Christ. In fact, I got serious about my walk with Christ through a Yoruba church. These are some of the most on fire for Christ people I've ever come across in my life. And you mean to tell me that it's people who are Black Americans who are, for whatever reason, being brainwashed and going backwards, leaving Christ to go and follow these ancient ancestors and false gods, little g gods? How does that make sense? We have people who have passed the mantles onto their children, who are priestesses for real in that faith, right? In that belief system, who are running full speed back to Christ, who are running to Christ because that very spirit that they serve, that very little g God that they serve, has turned on them. Now it wants them because they weren't able to fulfill whatever agreement that they made with that little g God. Because everything costs blood. Everything costs blood. There is no grace in the kingdom of Satan. The kingdom of hell, there's no grace, there's no mercy. They're running full speed back to God. In this day and age, in 2024, in Nigeria, across the world, you see these witches confessing. You see these high-ranking Satanists confessing, occultists confessing to the wickedness that they've done and why they are pursuing God with their whole heart. You mean to tell me, for whatever reasons, Black people who have been enslaved and bondaged, the reason why Black Americans were given over to slavery was due to this idol worship, or what worship? Idol worship was due to the reverence of false gods. You mean to tell me you want to take 150 steps backwards and go and start pursuing what oppressed you originally? Christ might not be white. I don't know what color he is. I low-key don't even care. But he is the way. And I say that by way of conviction, by way of testimony, by way of seeing it with my own eyes. This is not religion, because I could care less about religion. I'm about serving God, because why would I devote myself and give up as much as I've given up for a God that is not real, that I've never seen in action, which means I've seen him in action. So that being said, y'all, repent, forsake the wickedness. Ephi is not the way. Ephi is a trap of the enemy. It will cause you to be stuck. You will be in bondage. You will hate yourself. You will hate your life. And it will be a hard road to getting free from the mess, that you've made for yourself. You might not even live to see liberation. It might have to come 4 generations after you. Meaning you just set yourself up. You set your children up. You set your children's children, they up to be enslaved and to be pursued for no justifiable cause. Y'all shine your eyes. Look well. It's a proverb. Look well and understand what you're getting yourself into. It's not the way. It's a perverted version of the reverential worship of Jehovah prior to Christ's death and resurrection, prior to the introduction of grace. It's perverted. It's fake. Not fake as in there's no power there. Yes, there's power there, but it's fake as in these guys that you are aligning yourself to are not pure, and they will turn on you. They will turn on you. They hate you. They don't love you. They will use you till they can't no more. But the agenda is to kill you prematurely and to move on to the next host. To use you to do as much damage as you possibly can before they turn on you and kill you prematurely. And they will move on to the next host. Y'all, I pray that you take heed to this word. Pray that you listen and be blessed. Y'all have a good one. Bye-bye.